I hope we totally eviscerated that ridiculous talking point. You can't put a price on human life. Your answer should always be, I don't. You do. The governor of New York says that, Andrew Cuomo. Yet he's the governor. I was in the Secret Service. When you take on a high-profile position like that, Joe, wouldn't you agree? I've spoken to you about this off camera. You get a lot of death threats. That's unacceptable, Joe. What is he doing?
No.
He's putting a price on his own life. He should resign tomorrow. Change his name. Wear a mask, a Groucho Marx mask and a hat. There'd be no risk.
Agreed.
No one would figure out where he lives. Change your address, Andrew. Why doesn't he do that? Because he's put a price on his life. He's put a price on his own life. He's willing to accept that risk, and he deems that risk small enough that he's willing to pay the price of being a public figure and accepting the fact that he's going to become a target of some psycho. Not me. He did it. But on this second point, we can't risk one human life. What? Does that even make sense? So why doesn't that apply to anything else? That local example. The hepatitis outbreak they had down here a couple of years ago, the people died. Not a lot, but people died. Why didn't they shut down all of Florida? I'm just asking if that makes sense. If you're a logical human being, well, not one life can be risked. Why didn't you shut the state of Florida down with the hepatitis outbreak? The answer is because the price you would have paid is ridiculous in association with the risk you're talking about. That's why. Now, what's the story that troubled me so much and should trouble you too? Look at the story in the Washington Examiner. The show notes are a must read today, by the way. Between the Lee Smith article I'm going to get to and this, Bongino.com/newsletter. That is my show notes, the newsletter. We'll send you this every day. Please sign up. Andrew Mark Miller, Washington Examiner. This isn't like a, let me just read the headline because it's a really disturbing story and I don't want to mischaracterize anything. California doctors say they've seen more deaths from suicide than coronavirus since lockdowns. Folks, I don't like to talk about it a lot because I don't like to get too emotional on the show. It's not good. But having, unfortunately, recently and throughout my whole life, been impacted by people, friends, and relatives either threatening suicide or taking and carrying out the act. I mean everything from jumping off buildings to hanging themselves. I mean, did you think about it? Did any of this go through your mind when you decided to bankrupt people, destroy their livelihoods, take away their pride, their dignity, everything, make them wait on food lines? The fact that people are killing themselves, does that bother you at all? Or as I said on yesterday's show when I was very angry, and I'm going to try to contain myself a bit today on this, are you so driven by deranged political ambition to wipe out your nemesis, Donald Trump, that you just don't care how many people hang themselves, shoot themselves, jump off buildings, overdose on drugs, how many businesses are bankrupt, that you just don't care? And if that is you, and you don't want to win an honest election, you want to lock down the economy because you think you'll make political impact on Donald Trump, I'm not kidding when I ask you this. Do you understand how sick of a sociopath that makes you? Can you look at your children and honestly say you're a decent person? One of the more deeply impactful moments of my life was when I thought I was a really good guy in the Secret Service, and I wasn't at times. I did some bad things. And I talked to a friend of mine who was a deeply religious fellow, a nice guy, Fred. And he asked me once, "You think you're going to heaven?" I said, "Sure, I'm a good guy." And he handed me a book by Lee Strobel, A Case for Christ. Changed my life. It really did. Because it made me ask that very hard question. Are you a decent person? And sometimes the answer isn't what you want to hear. If you hate Trump so much that you don't care that people are hanging themselves and killing themselves due to the economic destruction imposed upon by a policy you support now only because it damages your political opponent, there's no evidence these things have worked to curtail this virus at all. You're a deeply troubled person. You need to pick up that book and read it because you have problems way way beyond politics.
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud. And follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.